This episode of the Birds on Power Lines podcast is the second installment of our travel journal to São Paulo, Brazil. If you haven't had a chance to listen to the first part, we hope that you take the time to listen to that as well. To make the podcast, we recorded our adventures and experiences at the end of each of the 9 days of our trip. We hope that these podcasts will inspire you to learn more about Brazil and perhaps visit yourself if you get the opportunity. To those of you listening on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Facebook, we encourage you to seek out our YouTube location to find links to the locations and topics we discuss, as well as photos for you to look at. Simply go to YouTube and search for Birds on Power Lines podcast. So today is São Paulo day 5. And it was a beautiful, hot morning. And what we decided to do was walk from our hotel and go down to, and for us it is definitely down a big hill towards Sao Paulo's equivalent of a central park.
Yeah, it's Ibirapuera Park.
Ibirapuera Park. And for us to get there, we actually ended up walking through quite a affluent part of the city, which was really interesting. Very beautiful part of the city, very quiet, lots of mansions, very tall walls that you can't actually see the houses, but it was really quite a beautiful part of the city.
Okay, and when we got there, we walked around a bit and decided to go to the Museu Afro Brasil, which is both an art gallery and museum. It was really highly recommended by people who lived in Sao Paulo or are from Sao Paulo that we know. If you like art and culture and history, that museum is a very good place to visit, but definitely don't go to visit the park on Monday because everything is, all the museums are all closed.
And while we were at the museum, it was pouring rain, like buckets. Not as bad as the other day that when we got caught out in the rain, but it was pretty bad. So it was kind of convenient that we're in the museum while it was doing that. And then afterwards, we ended up having sort of a late lunch at an outdoor cafe. Really nice place, restaurant Sabiá. And it's not like what we would expect in North America in a little cafe in the park, because it actually had, cutlery and dishes and a full meal. So it was, really, so when we say a cafe, we don't really thinking that we had like sandwiches. We could actually have like, hot food, which actually reminded us a lot about being in Europe as well. So that was really enjoyable. And then after that, we walked around a bit more, and we ended up going on this sort of, they have this sort of hike there. Like there's all these exercise things. So they have, they've got weights and exercise equipment and all this stuff out in the park so that people there can go there. It would be for free. And in amongst all of those different, I guess, stations, right? It's sort of like stations. There is sort of a 1.5 kilometer walk or hike that you can take. And there was some people who were running on that or just walking it. And so you can imagine if you were a runner that you could, go around the circuit a few times if you want to do like a 3K run or whatever you want to do. So it's marked. So that was really kind of neat that they have that in this park. So this really is a nice park. It wasn't very busy today, and I guess maybe because we're there on the weekday,
but probably because it was raining.
Well, and it was raining, yeah. But there was a lot of the stalls were closed.
And the last place that we went when we got back to the hotel was a nearby place specializing in panettone called Casa Bauducco. And it was a good panettone. Definitely recommended to us by our cousins, but it was very good. But there was a little bit of a language barrier, which actually kind of does bring to mind a number of things that we would like to share.
Yeah, so that does bring us to the language issue. So I think, we're doing fine, and we wanted to reflect on this because now we've been on our own, meaning not with my Brazilian cousins or our Brazilian cousins for the past 2 days. And uh, so you really can't come to Brazil thinking that you're going to find people that speak English. And the people that do speak English, it's just a little bit of English. So in general, people here don't really speak English. And even in the, the main, like our hotel is like really close to one of the main places where you would think that, a lot of people are going to speak English, and that's definitely not the case. You can go to a restaurant and they might have an English menu, which I would recommend if you are an English speaker and you don't speak Portuguese, that you maybe ask, English menu. They will probably know enough to show you. And most places seem to have an English menu, but that does not mean that the server is going to speak English with you because there's an English menu. So in terms of languages, probably Spanish would be a good one. I don't speak Spanish, but
Yeah, I speak Spanish
a
insofar that
little bit of Spanish.
yeah,
So,
insofar that I'm learning it as
and that's helping us a lot. So, in languages that I have, like my other language is German, that's not going to help me here. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So, with that, it's probably very handy to make sure that at least if you're traveling with multiple people, that at least one person has a SIM card and a cell phone that you can use here. I mean, I know that might sound bizarre because most people do, but that's, you really need to have that so that you can navigate and even use your phone and take pictures to translate menus, really basic things that you can use your phone for. So that would be a big recommendation. And I think that's really helpful because if you don't speak Portuguese, it would be really a shame if you decided to just stay in your hotel and not go out and explore. So this is something really to keep in mind. Don't come here thinking that someone is definitely going to speak English, because that might not be the case. And indeed, over the past 2 days, and especially like what just happened to us at this cafe where we had the panettone, there was no one there that could speak English that could help us out. So so the order didn't quite work out, and we got panettone, but not exactly what we thought. So, and that can happen. That's happened to us a few times over the past couple of days. Whereas when we were at the park, the person in the park at the cafe, he was perfectly fine in English. So you will find people that do, but in general, I wouldn't recommend thinking that you're definitely going to find people that speak English, because that might not be the case. They might just have a few words in English, and that would be about it.
yeah, and in the spirit of like exploring a bit, definitely one thing that we noticed is that the sidewalks here are very like very uneven. And the repairs are kind of spotty, but really just in general, I mean, as with any major city, but especially here, bring good walking shoes. And like, I mean, in my experience, these past few days, even if you have like sandals, make sure they're very comfortable walking sandals, and if they're not, bring running shoes.
Yeah, that's really good advice, because the sidewalks are definitely not what we're used to if you're coming from North America or Europe, or big city in Europe. Um, and definitely not if you're coming from New York City. So that kind of thing. The sidewalks are not even. uh, so that is something definitely to keep in mind. And if you've ever been to a place like San Francisco and all those hills there, that's something to think about. There's a lot of hills here. So you could be going up and down hills, maybe not quite as steep as that, but definitely it's
Yeah,
quite
definitely
hilly.
not as steep as that,
Yeah,
but
not as steep as San Francisco, but very hilly. So another reason to have good shoes. And one other thing we wanted to add in today, because we forgot a few things over the past few days, and that is some of the food that we've been enjoying. And something to keep in mind is that the two of us here are both vegetarian, so we can't comment on that part of it, like the meats. But we have experienced an interesting drink that's called Swiss lemonade. and it's surprisingly good. The first time we saw it was actually on our second day here, when we went out with our cousins, and we've since ordered it. I mean, a couple of times. So basically, what it is, and there's no lemons in it at all. So it's basically condensed milk and lime juice. I don't know why they call it lemonade, but it's more like limeade with condensed milk and some sugar and ice. And I looked at the recipe how it's done. So lime juice, sugar, ice, condensed milk, and put in a blender. And if anyone had told me about that before I came here, I would have thought that sounds disgusting. But man, it's really good and very refreshing. So I think I'm going to try to learn how to make that myself.
Yeah, and another thing that we've had pretty much every day are palm hearts. So the first day we had it was in like a kind of pastry pocket, and then we also had it in like a mini pie.
And the
Oh,
most interesting, I think, was like the stroganoff, right?
yeah, the
So
stroganoff.
instead of having a picture this, instead of a beef stroganoff, it's done with palm hearts. And I guess they're pickled, right? They must be pickled
Probably.
because we saw them at the market. If you remember, on day three, we went to the market and we actually saw the palm hearts in jars. So it's hard to explain that. So I might try to put a link to what palm hearts look like, so that you can imagine it. But basically, they put it into all kinds of things, and I believe that they're pickled. And I think I'm going to start looking for these because, as I said, we are vegetarian, and this really provides an interesting alternative that I'd never considered before. But we've been having them almost every day now, right? So
Yeah, and also another thing, often like when we went for either like lunch or dinner, and like it wasn't a like buffet type thing. If there's usually either if there's rice with an order, you also get fries with it, so kind of like double starch, which is definitely not something that we're used to.
yeah, it's usually rice or fries, but here
Yeah,
you get both. So
but
you're
yeah,
gonna
here
have
you get
rice
both.
and a potato, and it's typically fries. And then something that I've been drinking is Guarana. And it's kind of interesting because the sciencey part of me, I had done a research paper on Guarana years ago, and when in Brazil, this is a thing. It's everywhere. In it's sort of a type of soda. And if you look up guarana, and I have lots of links to this, so I'll find a good one so that you can see what it looks like. But it's basically a bean. It's got caffeine in it, and they make it into a soda. And I think the closest thing that I can, if you're familiar with something like Dr. Pepper or cherry cola or something like that, it reminds me of that. Doesn't taste quite the same, but it's on that, that bend. And then we tried something new this morning.
Yeah, for breakfast, something called Tingling Cake, which I originally thought was a mistranslation or something, as it was labeled, but it's pretty similar to coffee cake. I'm not sure if there's actually coffee in it or any kind of like coffee flavoring in it, but as far as I can tell, it's like coconut and chocolate. But it does taste very similar to coffee cake. So it's just like a little like loafish cake that is apparently a thing here, which is pretty good.
Yeah, so every day we're learning something new, trying some different kind of food. All right, so I think that's it for today. Today is Sao Paulo day 6, and surprise, we're not in Sao Paulo. We actually rented a car with our cousin, and we drove about 3.5 hours north of Sao Paulo to get to this amazing beach.
It's Praia do Juquehy.
So Praia do Juquehy. So it's amazing. It's sort of a beach resort kind of place that a lot of people from Sao Paulo and the area go to. And to get here, we travel through these amazingly green mountains and beautiful scenery.
Hmm.
Um,
The tunnels were actually pretty interesting too, because like they were very long, much longer than we're used to, and there were fans inside that like rotated the air around.
Yeah, so they're really long tunnels. And our cousin was explaining to us that they decided to build the tunnels, even though it was more expensive, because it would be more ecologically uh,
Friendly.
friendly. Yeah, I was going to say, stewardship of the environment. So, which is, coming from North America, that's a surprise in a way.
Mm.
So, it was amazing that they did that. So today we had a lot of fun playing in the surf already. The water is really warm. And even though it was raining a little bit, it was completely enjoyable. So we had a great time doing that. And before that, we had lunch.
We had lunch that was like kind of vegetarian stew with fried bananas and rice, and afterwards we had a dessert with like some kind of fried coconut cake-ish cake. It was warm with ice cream, just plain ice cream and honey, and it was very nice.
Yeah, it was really nice. The coconut cake reminded me of a giant macaroon. And I love macaroons because I love coconut. So that was great. And then, in terms of renting a car, we wanted to mention that. So we had a bit of a plan to do that before we left, and we left the States, and we were reading in our tour book that we should get a translation of the license if you intend to rent a car in Brazil. But we have a AAA membership, so we went to AAA, and they actually gave us a international license for the Americas, and it seems to cover most of Central and South America. The United States, curiously, Canada is not listed on there, um, but it was a lot cheaper to do that than get the license translated. So we were looking online, and sometimes the translation could be 40 or $50, whereas this license was $20. However, when we rented the car, they didn't actually ask us for this. They used our American license and our passport. So but I would recommend trying to do something. Don't just come with your U.S. license and assume that it's going to be fine. So, anyways, I think anything else to add?
No, that's about it right now.
Yeah, so that's how far we are with our Brazilian adventure for today. So we'll see what happens. If we do anything else today, we'll add a little bit more. Okay, today is Sao Paulo day 7, and we're still not in Sao Paulo again. So today we did beach,
Yep, we did beach at Juquehy Beach.
Juquehy Beach. So pretty much most of the day we got up, we were nice, well rested, and we went had a good breakfast. So the breakfast here at the hotel again is really great. It's included, and really beautiful fruits and different cakes like we had at the other hotel in
Mm-hmm.
Sao Paulo, but a little different. Like
Yeah, a
our
few slightly different things.
Yeah, so there was chocolate on the one cake. What was that called? The
Uh, well, it
tickling
was
cake or
translated as tingling cake in the
tingling
other
cake?
hotel, but
And this time there was chocolate on it, so
mhm.
that wasn't the case. So it was a little bit. It wasn't the case in Sao Paulo, so it was a little bit different. And then they had the orange cake, right, or the citrus
Yeah,
cake.
orange cake.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't have it in Sao Paulo, but you said
yeah,
you did.
I did. I didn't
And
have it here though, but
oh, I had it today
oh,
because you said you had it. And
yeah,
then something new was this. It's almost like a crepe
kind of.
or a
Yeah,
crepe,
yeah,
right? Depending on what language you're speaking. So crepe or crepe, and but it's made out of like a tapioca
tapioca powder.
powder,
Yeah,
and so it looks really white, and there's really no it's not sweet or salty. It's just basically the
tapioca.
tapioca. And our cousin explained that they literally can put the powder on the pan, and it can just sort of congeal into a sort of a crispy uh, dough
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing, and then they'll put stuff inside it. And so we had it with cheese.
Cheese, yeah, but also they can put like ham and cheese, and I mean pretty much anything. But
Yeah,
I
you
think
could make it sweet
yeah,
too.
typically it's ham and cheese.
So we had it today with some cheese, and so this morning when we went down, she said, "Do you want an omelet or do you want this?" And so we had this because you can have an omelet anywhere. Um, So breakfast really great. Oh, passion fruit juice was
Hmm.
included. That was different. And surprisingly, because when we get passion fruit juice in a bottle in the US, it's always really sweet. And fresh passion fruit juice, not sweet. Beautiful flavor, refreshing, a little sour, just a little bit sour. So it does not taste like what I had expected. So that was cool. And then, so beach.
Yeah. So there was the waves were very high today. I think even higher than yesterday. So very still warm water. A lot of very strong surf.
Yeah, you were in the water for a long time because you were
Yeah.
in with me and then you were also in with dad. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it was a lot of fun. Beautiful, beautiful water, beautiful scenery, beautiful beach here. So um yeah,
Yeah.
so we really enjoyed that.
And there were people selling pretty much anything on the beach. There was like food, several people selling food. One person selling blankets that I actually didn't see, but apparently a guy was selling blankets.
Yeah, I saw the guy selling
And I
blankets.
got a very good, I got amusement out of the man selling hats.
Yeah, so
Had
the
a big
hat
rack
guy,
of
we're
hats.
calling him hat guy, but he
Yeah.
he could he had this huge rack of hats,
Hmm.
and then there was some sunglasses in there
Hmm.
as well. So
But he had so many hats that all you could basically see were the hats and his feet.
and his feet, yeah,
Yeah.
and
Ice cream. We got some ice cream.
ice cream that was really good. Actually, local.
Artisanal ice cream.
Yeah, it was like like the shape. It was almost like looked like a popsicle, but it
Mm-hmm.
so much better than a Haagen Dazs. Like, oh my goodness. So and all kinds of different combinations of flavors,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course other food. And the interesting thing is that you could do electronic payment at the beach. Like when I saw these people, I thought, oh, I'm going to have cash. And they all have these little handheld electronic things, and in fact, you don't need to bring any cash to the beach. And something that we have discovered here is that most people are going to use a debit or credit card. And when we try to use some of our cash, sometimes they can't even make change. So um, that's something to think about. So when we first landed, we were going to exchange a lot of dollars into uh, Brazilian reals, and then we just decided that luckily, we were thinking, well, maybe we won't do so much. We're going to just see how it goes. So, yeah, you really don't need that much cash because most people don't seem to even be able to make change. And that even happened to us in Sao Paulo that we tried to pay with cash and people couldn't make change. So, yeah,
Yeah. Very different from other places we've
very
visited.
different and then, okay, so then after the beach,
Yeah. After
we
the
had a really good meal
yeah.
and
So one thing we enjoyed from that was a thing. I think it's this sort of a regional local thing
yes,
here. Banoffee pie, which is banana and coffee pie, which is an interesting combination.
yeah. Oh, I really liked
But
it.
yeah, I thought it was okay. It
You're
was
not a
alright.
huge fan of banana, but
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. So that's another thing. And then we went shopping.
Hmm. Little small little market there, and we got some gifts for people back home.
Yeah, so we ended up going, even to a little grocery market here. And surprisingly, one of the people heard us speaking English on our way in, and she started speaking English to us, asking
Hmm.
us if we wanted to take some free plants home because they had extra plants, I
Yeah,
guess.
those are not okay to fly.
Yeah, no, we can't bring those back home with us. But yeah, it was interesting. All of a sudden, this one person heard us speaking English, in reference to what we were saying the other day about, it's not very many people speak English, and then she heard us and automatically started speaking English. So that was a big surprise there. But yeah, so it was kind of fun. But it was nice going into the market.
Hmm.
I don't know what you thought, but I thought it was
I mean, I
fun.
thought it seemed pretty much like a normal supermarket.
Yeah, but like I like, seeing what people do and because
They're
just
buying things in the
just buying
supermarket.
but it's the same and different. It just
Yeah,
shows you that people are the same everywhere, right?
there was a lot of different like candies right at child eye level.
It's
Um,
they do that everywhere, but
yeah.
it's just so cool to go and be amongst like local people here
Hmm.
and
Oh, and we
just
saw almost double rainbow on the way out.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because there's some weird weather And actually, I just got back from the pool. We have a beautiful pool. I'm going to put a link to the hotel we're staying at. Really nice, beautiful pool as well. So it just was too dark to go back to the beach. So yeah, this is a great place to stay.
Mm.
And it's really nice to be able to stay someplace and be amongst Brazilian people because Brazilians stay here too. So
Mm.
it's this I found right at least at this time of year there isn't very many people from
I mean, there aren't really that many people on vacation right now in general.
right, but most of the people we see here are all speaking Portuguese,
Yeah.
so I think they're all Brazilian.
Hmm.
So it's a place where there isn't a lot of Western, Western, I say Western, but American kind of because this is West, but
Tourism. Hmm.
tourism from like, America and Europe
Hmm.
and stuff like that. Most people seem to be Brazilian. So this is like a really nice place that they go. And if you want to experience Brazilian culture, this is a good place to do it without being, caught up in the touristy kind of thing. So yeah, so it's really nice,
Hmm.
right? So I think that's about it for today. So that continue a little bit more of a Brazilian adventure. Today is Sao Paulo Day 8, and we started the day still at the beach,
Yeah, still at Juquehy Beach.
Juquehy Beach. And today it was actually really, really hot and sunny.
Too
So
hot.
yeah, a little bit too hot, but it was interesting because the past couple of days it was a little bit sort of overcast, and today it was really bright and sunny, but the water was fantastic. Like the past couple of days, I guess because of the rain we've been having, there was a lot of warning signs out on the beach for danger, and it
Mm.
was much choppier, which
Very
was
cloudy too.
yeah, it was a little bit more cloudy. And then, it was fun jumping around in the surf, but it wasn't as easy to swim. Whereas today it was so much calmer. It was almost like a different beach in terms of that. But so it was really wonderful to just swim, and it was very. My cousin would say it was very delicious, kind of thing, right? But yeah, so it was really really nice. And then we had lunch at one of the places there. Basically, we just had some pasta
Hmm.
today,
Good
and
pasta.
good pasta and a milkshake. And then we started our drive back to Sao Paulo, and we managed to get here just when the traffic started to get really bad. But traffic in Sao Paulo is always seems to be bad. But but we managed to get back, and then we returned our car because we rented the car. And the funny thing is that again, when we returned the car, they didn't speak English, but for the first time, we actually used Google Translate to communicate. I mean, we've been using Google Translate
To
for
read the menu.
to read menus, yeah, but this is the first time, and it was actually the people at the car rental place. They would talk into their phone, and then they would translate it and let us read what they were saying. So it's like, why did we try that before? So, anyways, we did try it later on tonight after dinner. We went to this great bakery,
Yeah. Bella Palista,
Bella Palista.
my Spanish training would say Paulista, but
Oh no, I think it's Bella.
I think it, yeah, I think it is Bella too, because
Yeah, I
like
think so.
the
I think it's Bella.
Italian would be
The
Bella,
Bella
Bella, yeah.
Polista.
Hmm.
So yeah, so and this place was really cool. We've had a lot of people tell us that we have to go there,
Hmm.
so we did. Um,
Packed.
and yeah, I think I didn't need to have eaten as much as I did for dinner, so because it was quite something. So we had two desserts,
Yeah, we had papaya cream and calzonetti.
and
Yeah.
the papaya cream was great, and
Mm-hmm.
but and we were sharing the calzonetti.
Mm-hmm.
So
Because it was very, very, very
it
big.
was huge. So
Yeah.
basically, that is a dessert
Yeah,
that,
it's banana
yeah.
and like I guess Nutella or something, some kind of
No, I
chocolate
think it
milk.
was literally
Chocolate,
chocolate. It
yeah.
didn't taste
It
like
was
Nutella,
banana and chocolate and some vanilla ice cream on the side.
and it was in a basically
Calzone,
a
like or kind of like the pizza dough. It reminded us of the chocolate pizza that we had a
the
few
other
nights
night.
back.
Yeah, so we had,
Yeah,
so I think this is a Brazilian
it's
thing
a
to do.
closed face chocolate pizza
Yeah,
plus
I think they
bananas.
like to make, sweet pizza. So they
Yeah,
was a sweet calzone, and it
they like
being
to do like things that are sweet and savory, but not necessarily like I mean having like curry bread for breakfast. I would not think of doing that, but
right.
they put sweet and savory things where they're not.
Yeah,
They typically would not be where they wouldn't be.
but it pays off. It's good. But I mean, this was literally the size of a full calzone. So it was,
Mhm.
and it was funny when we pointed it out to the person, like this server, the waitress, and she said grande grande.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we're like, okay,
Mhm.
we'll share it. And it just like, it would have
Mhm.
been enough for four people because
Yeah.
it was a huge calzone. So
Mhm.
but it was good. And but yeah, so I think that they like to mix, the what we would, like we were
They
just saying,
like to blur the boundaries of
blur the boundaries
food.
between that. And
Yeah.
but yeah, it was really great. And
Mhm.
so, but sadly this was our last day with our cousins. And I think our trip has been um dub
Eventful.
event but doubly perfect, having them take us around and explain things to us.
Yeah,
And
it's very good to have like a local or several local guides.
yeah, that's what it was like, having our personal guides. And
Mhm.
we've been so lucky to have them explain things to us, and take us around and help us. And it really made this trip even better than it could have been. Um, because if we were all on our own doing all of this, it would have been a lot harder. But totally worth it. But we've been very, very lucky. So yeah, it was really good.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's it for today. So today is Sao Paulo day 9, and it's also our last day.
Mm. That's sad.
Sadly, it's our last day. So anyway, we have an overnight flight. So this morning we rested a bit in preparation for an
Jet
overnight
lag.
an overnight flight. So after breakfast, we decided that we would explore more a little bit. And finally, on this last day, and I don't know why we didn't ask our family about this, but
Yeah.
we didn't.
I
Something
guess
we
we just
noticed.
accepted it
Yeah,
as
we
like
just,
something that
I don't
was
know
there.
why we did this, but we actually noticed this the moment we got here in the airport, even. And something that you'll notice here, everywhere here, there are these long ridges on the sidewalks, and running down the middle of the sidewalk there are also, in the airport, these long ridges of tiles. Like, there are tiles that are connected, and I'll try to describe them here, but they're tiles, and there's like these
They're
pair.
kind of like the things at the edge of like subway
Right,
stations.
but they're
They're
not.
kind of yeah, but like
They're
they're made
they're
of the same material.
they're made of the same material, but they're not dots. They're like long ridges, and there might be 5 or 6 ridges in a tile, and these tiles are all connected, and they run all the way down the middle of the sidewalk, not the end of the
Mhm.
sidewalk, the middles of the sidewalks. And we were just like, because they're hard to walk over. And we're like, what are these things for? We could not figure it out until today, our last day here. And I saw a person who was visually impaired, and they had a cane, and they were literally running the cane down these ridges. It was like an epiphany. It's like, oh, that makes so much sense. So and again, these are everywhere. And I'm just amazed at this amazing thing that they have for people who are visually impaired everywhere here. And they run down the sidewalk, and the person can just run their cane down them. And then we started paying attention a little bit more. So when there's a visual, not a visual, like an obstacle, there's actually like a warning square where you
Mhm.
have those subway
Dots.
dots.
Yeah.
And then the ridges continue around the obstacle to take the person around the obstacles.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
Or if there's like going to be a crosswalk ahead, there's
Oh, and yeah, and
or
if there's going
like
to be
access
a
to the street.
crosswalk,
Yeah.
because some of them are not at the corners, they're like in the middle of the street. So there'll
Mhm.
be another one of those squares, and then a series of ridges that will guide the person to the edge of the sidewalk. So it was just an epiphany for us, and I'm just so glad that I got the answer to this before we left.
And there were a lot of street vendors all over, because I guess it's a thing on Saturdays here to have like a lot more. Like there were street vendors all the time when we were walking around, but on Saturday, like it was like almost like a
Yeah,
street fair.
a lot. And
Yeah,
they're selling their art and things that they make.
yeah, all
And
of it's almost
yeah,
all,
and
if not
some
all,
of the
is
stuff
handmade.
is amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, it's all amazing, but we found things for ourselves, so we got gifts for ourselves
yeah,
today. And then we walked to one of the last mansions that are
yeah. The
left.
Casa de Rosas,
So Casa das Rosas, and we enjoyed the gardens there. There's a
mm.
beautiful rose garden.
and had uh, some food at the cafe. We had
Yes,
Swiss lemonade for the last time.
Swiss lemonade. That's our last Swiss lemonade. So we
Mhm.
got that. And then
The-
we passed a hospital
oh yeah, the hospital.
that I can't remember the name of the hospital now, but it
Santa Catarina, I think.
Katerina, I
I
think.
think it's Catarina.
And there was a like an old church there, so
Yeah.
we went there and we looked at the art in there, and there was some amazing sort of medical art on the side of the building there, and
Hmm.
I that was really cool. So we took some video of that, and then it started raining.
Yeah, it started raining, so we made our way to one of the shopping centers and had some lunch there. But now we're just resting at the hotel before we leave.
Yeah, so I know we're going to have a lot of reflecting to do
Hmm.
on this trip because we've done a lot since we got here. Like we were just thinking like last week at this time we were doing this and this, and it felt like a long time ago. So we took lots of photos, lots of video, met
Hmm.
and enjoyed our families. So we're so blessed that we have an amazing Brazilian family here that really helped us a lot and made this a really special trip.
A lot of memories.
Yeah, we're going to have
Yeah.
a lot of memories to think back on. So that's it for Sao Paulo.
Yep.
This concludes our travel journal for our trip to Sao Paulo, Brazil. If you aren't listening on YouTube, we encourage you to find us there for photos and information to learn more about the places and topics we discussed, as well as to comment and ask questions. We also want to take this opportunity to thank our Brazilian family for their wonderful and generous hospitality and support of our adventure. We really are so grateful to them. And as always, we thank you, our listeners, for joining in and being part of the Birds on Power Lines podcast.